Kentucky woman, she shines in her own kind of light. She looks at you once in a day, what's wrong is
welcome into another episode of the Dropkick Basement, your favorite pro wrestling history podcast for the middle part, or towards the end part here of March. Mike Madden here, your host, joined by Tommy Schultz. Tom, are you? How you be? Are you with us?
I'm with you. I'm here. I'm ready. Let's talk some. Let's talk some wrestling.
Let's talk wrestling, of course. I do, before we really get into the beef of this episode, I do want to mention there are a lot of corrections, by the way, from our two-sport wrestler.
Oh, boy.
we were speaking a little bit out of turn on, of course, our favorite topic that we ended on was Larry Zbyszko. I was absolutely wrong. It was not the miniature golf tournament, the professional miniature golf tournament that he was part of. He was trying to qualify for the senior PGA tournament.
Oh,
really? And he might have been doing this, maybe this like talk show segment that I saw was him putting. You know, maybe I got a little confused, a little out of sorts on that.
All right.
Apologies to the entire Zbyszko family. Larry's tiny little dog that he had, any of the Gagne sisters that he had relationships with. But yeah, that was wrong. We kind of hit or missed a few of the pro teams that the football players ended up playing for, but you can't win them all.
Yeah.
But
what are you gonna do?
Ultimately, a very good episode. So, but I did before I went any further, I did want to mention that little misstep on Larry Zbyszko's golf pedigree. So, you might have heard a little bit. Those of you who are listening closely, you might have heard a little bit of a chirp in the background. We actually have a special guest in the basement this evening. He's infiltrated us, member of the Off the Cuff Stuff Network podcasting family, host of the Count Me Down podcast, as well as the former host, maybe future host of the Basement Bar Show, Steve Mezzano. Steve, welcome to the basement.
Welcome to the basement. I feel honored. I love it. I can't wait. This is gonna be great. I love the topics. It's gonna be a good time.
Well, you've been here before. You have you've helped us out with a few episodes. Some trivia, which is in the future for us as well. But you came to me in particular about a week ago and said, we need to discuss this streaming show that's been on Netflix for a couple of years, I guess a year and a half now. It just caught your eye. It's called The Wrestlers. And it's based on a summer at Ohio Valley Wrestling, and just talk a little bit about how you stumbled upon this gem, and then we'll get into a little bit of discussion about this circus, as they said a million times in the show.
I don't. You know what? I think one of the other shows I watched ended and said, if you like this, you would like. You may like that type of. With the algorithm, how it hooked it up, and. I'm like, yeah, let's see this. I'm like, I know what OVW is. I'll tell you, it's been a while because I actually thought OVW, because I remember like Cena and those guys coming out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I knew they didn't have a relationship with WWE, but I figured, okay, like they're probably putting together something decent. So it's like, oh, I'll check it out, right? And then.
Yeah, naturally.
And then like crack, I was addicted.
For sure. And I, as I said, when you texted me about it, I was like, all right, I watched one episode and I was kind of like, oh, I don't know if I could stick through this. And that was like when it first came. It was suggested to me by, another friend, another wrestling friend who was like, this is kind of cool. Like you get to see, the way that OVW is run these days. And I got through like the first time I got through like a half an episode and I was like, I just don't have the headspace for this. Tom, you said you watched it when it originally came out.
Oh, I think I watched it the day it came out.
Okay, right.
First of all, any like wrestling documentary,
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love a documentary.
Of course, yeah.
B, as soon as you watch the first episode, you're like, oh, this is a shit show.
I want
and
more.
Any
Yeah.
shit show documentary, I love even more than a wrestling documentary.
yeah.
Like Tiger King or there's another one, the Kings of Tuscaloosa on Netflix. If you haven't seen
Okay.
that,
All right.
A+ television.
Okay.
Right.
But-
you know what? That actually came up on my feed, so that'll be my next
Immediately, only 3 episodes. Maybe the best thing I've ever seen.
Wow. Okay.
But I remember, like, it was like, okay, this is a documentary about OVW, and like the guy that's the like cover, I guess you would say, like what would be like the DVD cover.
Yeah.
I'm like, that looks like a guy that I saw wrestle in St. Joe's High School when I was 10 years
Ooh,
old.
okay.
This is going to be incredible.
Little local folklore for you. Wow.
This is gonna be incredible.
But
So,
it's
yeah.
again to just kind of bring everybody up to speed. It's a summer at Ohio Valley Wrestling. Most wrestling fans will have a history with Ohio Valley, and they'll know names of people. But I just wanted to go through like some of the brief history of the people that went through it. Kind of and it's when you really look at and boil it down, it started in 1993. So for there to be like an independent and somewhat strongly affiliated developmental brand, for it to last that long, I give it a ton of credit. So it started. It was Danny Davis, not the referee Danny Davis, but
I was gonna say not dangerous.
not dangerous Danny Davis, Nightmare Danny Davis, who worked all around the South in Memphis and in Louisville and Florida. Territory tag team wrestler. He was a tag team partner with Nightmare Ken Wayne back in the 80s, 70s, and 80s. And when he retired, this was the old Ohio Valley Wrestling was his training school / indie promo. By the time it got to 99, it was partnered up with WWE. They sent Jim Cornette, because Jim Cornette was tired of being on the road and tired of doing kind of next to nothing and really like frustrated with the creative that he was assigned at the company. So they said, all right, we'll go down to Ohio Valley Wrestling and you help run that as our developmental territory. From there, it had about a good 5-year stretch, if memory serves me, if not more, of producing their next like run of main event guys.
Oh, yeah.
So the Cenas, the Lesnars, the Batistas, Randy Ortons, Shelton Benjamin.
That one crop was like, it's insane that they were all brought in at the same time.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And then even the guys that were their local wrestlers were eventually ended up. So like Nick Dinsmore had been there since like 99, eventually came up and he was Eugene. The Basham brothers were, and we'll know that Danny Basham is part of this OVW reality show. It had a little resurgence in the mid 2000s with guys like when they were bringing in independent talent and some second generation guys. So you had Punk, who had a good run in OVW. You had Cody Rhodes started out there. Beth Phoenix, the Miz, like, so you had a lot of people that they were very high on that had their times in Ohio Valley Wrestling. Paulie Dangerously, or Paul Heyman, he was their creative force after Cornette like left, and then by the end of the decade they were done with WWE and they moved
once
there.
they cut the strings with once WWE cut the strings with them, did they turn out anybody else? Like, was there anybody?
So
that
they were
went on to be like somebody that like a generic fan would know. So
they were affiliated with, after that, like a few years later, they hooked up with TNA and they became the sort of
feeder.
like the developmental feeder system for TNA. And there were I don't think there was anybody that like made it where they're a household name now, but like Rob Terry, Tom, I'm sure you
I know that name.
probably know the name. He was
He changed your oil 3 weeks ago.
but he was there, and I think a few of the people that are there now were part of that transition over when TNA was affiliated with him. But yeah, that leads us to 2020. I guess this was 2022 into 2023, where the reality show took over. Current owner, head trainer, Al Snow. I will say this before we even get into the deep part of the episode and talk about like some of the wackiness. Al Snow at times is the saddest man in pro wrestling through this, because he's so frustrated with the way that things are going. Like he butts heads with another owner. He doesn't like the way that certain talent talks to him, or Steve, we both said this, like he's got very gatekeeper of pro wrestling vibes, for sure.
He leads off with that.
He's still
in the
trying to
first
protect
episode.
the business.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Like, Mike, you said it perfectly. He's like the protector of the realm of like what wrestling is, and nobody else can have an opinion. And you said it from the first episode, and it's so true. It's like, he just sits there like, and it's always, nobody can see me, but he's always like,
Yeah, he's got
and he's just like,
puss on.
right. And the thing isn't making a nickel,
Exactly.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, the first episode starts off with like, and we have new part-time owners.
Yeah, right.
The podcast guy and the mayor, and like, the
mayor's such a do-nothing as part of that. Like,
Oh, yeah.
It makes it seem like, oh, he's really going to be involved, and like, they love, they love OVW and the history of it, and maybe they do, but like the radio host Matt Jones,
yes. He's more of the forefront of trying to like run this thing and make it profitable.
Yeah, and figure out different ways to market the stupid promotion that you haven't done before.
He's trying to explain to people that businesses only stay as businesses if they make profits.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Your passion project is, if you don't make any money, it's a hobby.
Yeah, exactly. Right, exactly.
Like you're trying to run this as a territory. Mm-hmm. That shit died 30 years ago, buddy.
Yeah. And I guess that's part of the through line through the whole series, is that you've got these little conflicts that come up where, Matt Jones had been a guy that worked, I think he was, I don't really know his whole story, but he was affiliated with the University of Kentucky.
Yes.
Was he a basketball player or whatever he did? He's got a what he calls a very successful radio show in the area on one of the local radio stations. Which, good for him, because if those are the people, the people that you see in the crowds of Ohio Valley Wrestling are the ones that can figure out how to turn on their radios and tune a dial in. Those are going to be loyal listeners throughout. I don't see them venturing outside of their houses a whole lot.
They don't know how to change the channel.
Yeah, right.
They got stuck on that one, and they're listening.
They're just gonna ride it out.
Yeah. Anytime they turn their car on, that's what's up.
Well, eventually it's static, right? So he gets involved, and he's very I will give him credit. Like, he was pretty smart to say, hey, there's things that like work and I can promote through the radio station that we should be doing. We shouldn't just be happy to show up every Thursday, do our weekly show, tape a little television show, live or live to tape, and then do what they're calling a pay-per-view, which we'll get into in a little bit, once a month or once every 6 weeks or whatever their cycle is. And he's got good ideas. And of course he's going up against Grouchy Al, who's just like I don't want to do it that way. Like we should have more resources to, get better training facilities and,
Yep.
I've got to pay the wrestlers and I got to pay the production people. And it's like, yes, we understand that. But like, the idea of like going on a summer tour is really like the thing that Matt Jones pushes as, hey, maybe this can be smart and we can attract people that aren't, because I can promote it from the radio. Maybe we can attract people who aren't watching or attending these shows already and build our audience from there.
Well, I think like when Steve said gatekeeper or whoever said gatekeeper, like that is the ultimate description of Al Snow, because he keeps saying, well, you don't know the wrestling business. Right.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, but I know business. I know how to promote things. I know how to market things. I know how to grow businesses.
Right.
Wrestling or not wrestling, I know that if you have this specific audience,
right,
I can promote this to an outside audience who half of them may like it, half of them may hate it, but they'll at least watch it once.
Yes.
Right. They'll give it a chance.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because of me.
Right.
And Al Snow doesn't understand.
Oh, because he wants it all to be about him and the mannequin head that he had,
well, that's
25 years ago.
That's the other thing that, I mean, listen, I as a kid, I loved the Al Snow gimmick. But the one thing that drives me nuts about some of these, I feel like Disco Inferno is like another guy that I could like put into this category of like guys who literally not a single person ever bought a ticket to see them.
Yeah.
But they'll tell you everything you need to know about the business.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh,
And
no,
how-
absolutely. Yeah.
Like Al Snow, my favorite. This is like, and like, people that I know that maybe other people. So, but he'll always be the guy to be like, "Oh, WrestleMania 3. What?" He'll be the guy that goes, "WrestleMania 3. What was the best match?" And when everybody inevitably says Randy Savage versus Ricky Steamboat, he goes, "No, it was Hogan and Andre because that drew the money.
That drew the house."
And it goes, "That's not." But that's not what.
It's not that's the question we're asking. Yeah.
That's not what you asked. You like he tries to be smarter than you.
Yeah.
Well,
Like
and
he's a
it's
guy that thinks he's smarter than you.
He's riddled the whole series with like, if this doesn't work, I don't know what to do. I'm out of answers. But then anybody who says, why don't we try this?
Yeah.
He's like,
Nope.
no.
Yeah. He's pie facing them.
You don't
I'm
know
not just-
anything
yeah.
about wrestling.
Right. I'm not just going to do that to get some kind of cheap pop. I'm like, that's the whole industry is cheap pop. Like,
Yeah.
that's what you do.
And
Like, you elicit, like, and I think the guy Matt Jones said it one time. He's like, you're trying to elicit a reaction. That's why I want to do like a, UK versus Louisville match.
Yeah.
He's like, I just want people to feel something.
Yeah.
It's so, poor Al. I mean, and he just
His poor wife, really.
Yeah.
She played a major role of the masseuse just giving him rubdowns.
Listen, not just a masseuse. She sold a hell of a lot of popcorn at that popcorn stand. She had a nice cheese pour on that nacho cheese as well. And
What do you think she thinks when she has like a degree in massage therapy, and he's like, listen, honey, those tips aren't cutting it. I need you to sell nachos on Thursday night for the big pay-per-view.
come help me out? I gotta bring you down.
This is bigger than both of us.
Listen. Instead of payment, I'll bring you to Ric Flair's last match. I'll introduce him to you probably for the 400th time, and he'll look at me sideways like, "Who the fuck are you?"
And by the way, the minute I'm in Dallas Page is like, "Hey, I'll come and if you ever need anything, man, just let me know. I'll come out."
Yeah.
You lock him in right there. You're like, "Yeah, why don't you pick a Thursday? What works for you?"
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Right.
Like, do anything to get somebody to watch.
Grab him by the arm and take him into your car now. And just say, like, you're
Don't let him
spending
go.
a week
Get
with
the,
us.
Get the automatic locks and just now you can't get out of the car.
And the
Although,
other thing is, everybody knows that he's behind all of this, right?
oh yeah,
And his reluctancy to like wrestle is like mind-boggling.
Right.
You're the only motherfucker that anyone knows on this show.
Yeah, that's
And you're like, no, I don't want to be seen.
And the
What
best
is wrong with you?
It's got to be done right. I don't think you just do it to do it. It's got to be done right. I'm like, dude, and it's funny because he's tried to pick up like Triple H's, mannerisms and the way he presents himself, and it's like, dude, you can't even be Al Snow.
Hey, asshole, you once lost the hardcore title to a deer head.
yeah. Yeah. You're the man of Gaga. You weren't like hey, yes, he was a technical wrestler and a damn good technical wrestler when he needed to, but by his own admission, he would have been the Savage Steamboat match and somebody else would have been the drawing the house match. So,
exactly.
Figure out a different way to draw the house than, trying to do the technical stuff. But let's get right to that, to the end of it where he has that last match where they undersell the fact that it's Danny Basham as his tag team partner until like the last episode. They were like, until like the last 10 minutes of the episode, they were like, oh, now it's a tag team match where it's Snow and Danny Basham against two other guys for the, and again, that's the old, 80s wrestling. You get 5 minutes with the manager at the end of it. And, the crowd loves it. The other guy's the big heel. And I thought so that was the one episode that I actually connected with the most where I was like, this actually pays off good. And Al looks like kind of a hero, and they give up for him. That like he's over with that crowd, and so is Danny Basham. And it's like, well, not that they're supposed to be the stars of the company. I get that, like, you don't want them to be the stars of the company, and I guess like they didn't show enough of the I guess the meat of some of these OVW TV shows.
No, of course.
But he's probably an authority. Both of them are probably on camera authority figures, but they're just not used enough. So when you're getting to that big payoff, it's like, man, if the whole series, if the first thing in the series was Matt Jones saying, I think you should wrestle, and it was 7, if that was sprinkled into the 7 episodes, you probably really would have gone on this journey with Al trying to decide if he wanted, and this was his last match or whatever it was, trying to see if he wanted to do it. But instead, it's like, all right, well, we kind of rushed to it at the very end. It was mentioned
Right. It was
a few before the end, but then it's like it's sort of rushed at the end. Okay, well and good, but like I said, that last episode was my favorite. A, because it actually had a decent payoff, and B, because I was like, oh, good, there's no more of this group of people that I have to look at for upwards of an hour at a time. So
if you're watching it and you're looking for like, okay, sell me on that it's a good series, right? Mm-hmm. What I would say is that it gives a real interesting look on what it's like to run a small nothing promotion with a bunch of people that are really not reliable. I mean, there's like Shira is reliable, and like, the guy who winds up being on Tulsa King is reliable. Other than that, and the girl,
Cash guy,
Cash Flow.
Yeah, Cash Flow is he's, if you watch Tulsa King, he's on Tulsa King.
Is he really?
He's on season 2, and he was the runaway star on season 2. Everyone loved him. He's gonna be back like every episode. Good for him. He's making money.
Yeah.
No shit, that's awesome.
Yeah, he's but like, you're dealing with unreliable people, right? Most are who have some kind of a drug issue or prison issue or something.
That's independent wrestling in a nutshell.
Yeah,
and the one guy Shira winds up getting hurt, so they can't even get the payoff for him winning his title. That's why Al's got to get thrown in, and you're just like, like, how do you not have a heart attack by now if you're Al? Like, like you like every week there's some new thing that and you think that you're a head writer when you probably couldn't write a business letter.
I mean, but again, like, even it's the payoff is carny shit.
Of course it is.
Like,
yeah.
Like Al Snow, we're getting Al Snow coming back in a singles match.
Yeah.
And then it gets turned into a tag match.
It's a tag team match, right? Yeah.
Like when Onita came to America in like 2012, and they were like, "You're gonna get Onita versus Matt Tremont."
Yeah. Get ready for that death match.
Exploding barbed wire match.
Yeah.
And then it turned into like a 6-man, and there was no exploding barbed wire.
Yeah.
It's just like, let's just do everything to get anyone in the building,
right?
And then we're just gonna pivot immediately because we don't want to pay off exactly what we advertised.
It's
Well,
classic.
even in the last episode when they're all like waiting to get in, everyone's like, "I got ringside. I got ringside." I'm like, "There's like 28 seats for ringside." I'm like, "There's
Yeah,
nothing
dude.
else." And I'm like, "Did you only sell ringside?" Because
By the way, if
you
you're
can fit 40 people in the building.
if you're in the parking lot, you're on ringside.
yeah, I got ringside.
Yeah, but you're right. The bait and switch stuff, but the bait and switch stuff is just again. That's I hate to
That's
like.
classic carny bullshit.
It's it's low level indie stuff. It's it's carny bullshit. It's Southern to a T. And especially like, hey, we've got this guy that he's the heel commentator. He's the skinny runt. He goes on the radio and badmouths the guys in our promotion. We're gonna he's gonna get his comeuppance. Which again, if it works for that territory, that's where that's why he had such a light at the end of that, because he was like, hey, we did it my way with with that main event, and everybody went nuts for it.
And listen, everyone in that building went nuts for it.
Well, I mean,
yeah. But this is the problem with the promotion as a whole is they act like because the 48 people that were inside that warehouse
yeah.
fucking went bananas for it.
Warehouse.
It was a successful pay-per-view.
Yeah.
But like 13 people bought it on Triller TV.
So that takes us back to
And 3 guys got run over by the backhoe driver moving the paper in the warehouse.
It's
so
like, what the fuck are we talking about?
when they're doing the first pay-per-view at the very beginning. So they give you the primer on who's in the promotion, and by I guess that's the second episode, they're already like, all right, we're building up to this pay-per-view. Which is all well and good. Like it gives us an establishing of like where this company is. So
100%.
you learn some of the players. I think the star out of that whole group, although Cash Flow does have his moments, the star out of that group is Haley J, Hollywood Haley J.
Yeah.
And she gets the most face time because her mother helps Al, Sad Al, run the promotion. Her boyfriend, Darkstorm. Okay,
Darkstorm.
I really he had some very riveting one-on-one personal time with the cameraman while he's sitting in a Toyota Tercel.
Was he not the one that got arrested halfway through this?
You bet he was. Yeah. And then he went to his barber and allowed his barber to give him a trim up on his terrible facial hair. I did like that we had some footage of him. I guess he was in early TNA days, and NWA TNA days, wrestling in some tag team matches where he didn't look like an awful piece of garbage. But now this is 20 years later, and there has been a distinct decrease in his appearance since then. But so it establishes their relationship. Not only do they wrestle and train together at OVW, they also work at the bar at the Holiday Inn. Oh yeah, which is one of the places that the wrestlers like to hang out. And then there's a bunch of other like secondary characters that don't necessarily have screen time and talk time, which include the guy with the top hat. I think his name was Rory Von Rocket. By the way, still with OVW to this day. A lot of these names are going to still be with OVW to this day. Rory Von Rocket. They had the Reverend, who I guess, like, again, never acknowledged, but he must have some relationship with the amazing Maria, who is Hollywood's mommy.
She was also a wrestler?
She was, yeah.
He was famous for her death matches.
Death matches. She's an IWA Mid-South girl. You know where she gets her paycheck bounced from at IWA Mid-South.
Ian Rotten.
And she wasn't getting paychecks in like 2003 when they were like hot indie. She was getting paychecks in 2007, 2008. So they could probably clear the high jump pole at the University of Kentucky for the height that they would get.
Oh man,
when Ian was skipping them all over town. But and then a few others, like, mostly like nameless, faceless people on the indies. Shira was their big champion. But they go into this first pay-per-view. It is Hollywood versus Layla Gray, who now is with AEW, doing valet work for Top Flight. And I guess they're wrestling over the OVW ladies title. Hollywood goes nuts. She's got a mad ball, and she's whipping everybody. And eventually,
by the way, it was hilarious. She's just whacking people in the face.
Yeah, she actually did a pretty decent job with that. That's the only credit that I will kind of give, like, the establishing of that character. It's like, wow, she really is like, this like crazy white trash girl that's like, actually like showing some fire here.
Well, by the way, for 3 years of experience, she's like, I'm going to go take over WWE. I'm going to go take. Yeah. I'm like, why don't you learn the craft just a little bit more?
Well, and the other issue with her is the second that she opens her mouth, she is just riddled with it's 4-letter word. I mean, and again, like I'm not
stopping at 2 issues.
I'm not the language.
The other issue
I'm not the language police, but this is a girl who just does not have any charm or class or poise, and she's like, all right, she's on a reality show.
Out in the back.
I know it's
the whole time.
The whole, if you have sort of this this image of a kind of hood rat white girl who is just going to run her mouth and talk about how she should be, going places with her wrestling career. And if it's got a Southern accent, you've nailed it. And that's exactly how she comes across, is that a little bit delusional, a little bit probably.
Well, that's who she is.
Yeah. Probably right. Fed in.
The thing is, she's the definition of living the gimmick.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, she is what WWE tried to portray Nydia as when she was Jamie Noble's.
Of course. Yeah.
Like,
right.
Manager. She is just
trailer park trash.
Straight out of trailer park.
Yeah. And that's, again, we're not judging her as a human being over that. There's a lot of other things to judge her over when it comes to her as a human being. The blunt behind the, and the jail time, and the I was selling drugs, and the I'd had to do everything and live on the streets and all this other stuff. And it's like, all right, like you overcame a lot, but you've clearly like ramped up to the middle. And it's not like you're gonna be in the middle until you're away from that company.
Yeah. Does it take a genius though to be like, who would hire you at a big company when they can't rely
when they see this?
Yeah,
right. Like when you sound like this, when you portray yourself this way, when you smoke every 2 seconds, and you make every excuse of why you smoke, and it's like what?
Because then she started to get looks.
Right.
In the show. Mm-hmm. But then once the show comes out, those same people are going to see it and be like, oh, wait.
I wouldn't
distance ourselves from this woman.
I wouldn't work with her.
A lunatic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
But she's the star of the show. As far as the wrestling end of it, again, she's okay in the ring. It's not like, I hate to say it,
character work. She's
character work. She's like a low level Liv Morgan, Alexa Bliss type, where you see she's got a little bit of a fire when it comes to brawling. The stuff with the Mad Ball, and then later on she has the death match with the mom. And but the one thing that like really grinded my gears, and Steve and I talked about this, she's got the follow-up match after she beats down everybody. The real angle, and eventually they got to it, the real angle is her and her mother. But they stop on the way to that, and they say, we're going to have a hair versus hair match. Right? And Haley J is like, I need to get my hair cut anyway. I'm cutting my hair for such and such. And it ends up being for Women of Wrestling out of LA.
Yeah.
Jeannie Buss's company. Is that still around, by the way? Don't know.
Probably
Anyway,
not.
so so they decide that they're going to do a hair versus hair, her and Layla Gray for the women's championship and so on and so forth. And they do the stupidest fucking angle in the world. And Al thinks this is a genius angle. And he's like, I got her input from it. And this was as much of her as it was my genius. And it's like, she loses on a freak roll up. She bails out like everybody does in a fucking hair match. And the mother's the one that carries her back. She does a, boom, boom, boom with the mom. And then like hits the ring post and knocks herself out. Gets literally 3 strands of haircut. So there's no like, oh, I shaved half of my head or my whole head, or, I got it cut in the front and I look like a weirdo or whatever it is. She gets 3 strands of haircut and then she has to like bail out to the back. And it's like the payoff should be the mom cutting her hair at the end of the summer after they get to the bigger pay-per-view. But no. We have to get, Layla Gray's got to get the heat on her at the beginning of the summer with this bad like hair stipulation that you didn't fucking pay it off.
Right. Like he keeps talking about the payoff. Keep it slow.
Yeah.
Build it up. But like, it's like the second or third pay-per-view, she's getting her hair cut. The 5th pay-per-view, she's wrestling her mom.
Yeah.
Right. Like build it up towards the big one.
Yeah.
And like actually have a card that you go, oh my God, we've been waiting for this. Like anybody who's been following, it's going to get a payoff. Why would, like when you look at that, and we laugh because I mean, what did they sell at the one pay per view? Like 75 buys.
Yeah,
they could have broke 100 with this, and it's like, what's making me watch?
Yeah.
But again, it's like the delusions of grandeur of thinking that any of this
is leading
will
somewhere.
make anyone give a shit.
Yeah.
Because what Al Snow loved to bring up throughout this series is how many weeks in a row that this show has been on whatever air they consider to be the air.
Yeah.
But like he's like, this is the longest running independent wrestling show or whatever the fuck he's talking. And it's like, dude, no one's watching.
Yeah.
And you can I can film myself for the rest of my life every day. Does that mean that it means anything? No.
Yeah, true.
It's not Raw. It's not The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
we're
Yeah,
talking,
exactly. Yeah.
We're talking about this TV, quote unquote,
Local
TV
television show. Right. Yeah.
that 38 people watch.
Right.
The people that are in the building then go home and watch the taping of it so that they could see themselves in the crowd.
Which is one thing they probably shouldn't, because let's talk about some of the people in the crowd. The crowd themselves. Again, listen. If you're from Kentucky, I'm sure there's probably some very fine people, probably well put together people. But this did not. Like, I think they specifically like picked out the most pro wrestling looking fans they could, just so they can emphasize, hey, pro wrestling fans aren't that like clean or educated or whatever it was. So they played into the tropes, and boy, an embarrassment of riches when it came to the tropes. A Jazz Scooter. I saw a few people on those boys, and they, good thing that they left the front row open, or there wasn't enough people at some of the shows, because the Scooter could go right up to the railing.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, would have been fantastic.
There was
the Scooter didn't wind up in the ring.
They had that lovely little girl who I actually like. So I'm watching that, and as you guys know, when I go to wrestling shows, I do like to mix it up with kids when it comes to like, cheering on a heel and then getting them more into the baby face. And it's my favorite pastime. And if I ever had a chance, maybe this should be on my sports bucket list, is to go to Ohio, go to Davis Arena and sit anywhere in the facility of this little girl. I don't remember her name anymore.
I can't remember her name, but she was amazing.
She was
unbelievable.
Because
by the way, she was faster like without a mic.
Yeah, I know.
Dummies they have on the mic.
Yeah, she's gonna work for them in about 10 years. She'll be she'll probably be the next Hollywood Haley J. Just stay away from all the meth, but the further away. I mean, I'm sure there's some in her house already.
36-year-old boyfriend.
But the the quips that the kid had, I was like, all right, she very much is like a cheering on the baby face type, and she was like giving the business to the two workers that were like walking through the parking lot. I was like, props to this girl. She's pretty funny. So yeah, a little
The serpent that was with her as a parent was
Serpent.
yes, a sunken face woman.
I paused it 4 times because I kept laughing. I was like, that can't be her face. Like,
and it was sort of like, well, where does it end and why is it here? But yeah, in general, the crowd itself didn't do any favors for pro wrestling fans that are trying to kind of cut that stigma. But they love their OVW. They were making signs for Shira. They were making signs for James Storm when he did a one-off appearance. So they certainly, like, again, if they're fans of the show, like, God bless them. And hopefully, they get as much enjoyment as is possible. But they aren't
you're
spending.
not going to get as much enjoyment as Shira did waxing down his 2011 Honda. And he was all over in the car. He's like, this is like my baby.
Oh, there's a hole in the back that I could put stuff in. Great.
And he's like, somebody broke this. I wish I knew who did it. I'm thinking to myself, it must have been an accident, dude, because you would have killed the guy. And at least he's not on drugs. Poor guy, he's got to give up his title, which they're like, it made it like big, like giving up his kid.
I know.
He and then he can't get it back because he's got a dislocated shoulder. I'm like, this wreck, like.
But he's also.
And then they just keep showing him praying and. Like,
he's a good character. He's a good character for the show.
I feel bad for.
Yes,
he's stuck in a crappy OVW. By the way, you know who that champion is now?
No. Cash Money?
You don't know?
Easy.
EC3.
No. Oh, EC3 is one of their champs. Well,
that's where he's fallen to.
Ugh.
That's what I. When I saw, so just so you know, I saw it, and then I had to. Not only did I not trust my computer, but I did it on my phone. It's like maybe that computer is like.
Well, after the what was the name of their promotion? Create Your Own Narrative.
Oh yeah.
After that, and their anger room failed. He was like, you know what? Maybe I can get on Netflix.
He was on. Wasn't he like the NWA? He was part of that at Billy Pumpkins and his NWA.
Not far off from.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, like, if we're talking about put those companies together on an iPay-per-view, and
Hollywood would fit in well. She would fit in well with Father Jim Mitchell.
Oh, Jim Mitchell and his
cocaine outfit,
table of cocaine. Yeah,
I mean, EC3 couldn't get a gig anywhere. Like, just go do independence, like real independence.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
he stinks.
Yeah, he's not good.
I totally agree with you. Whenever they try to give that guy a push, I'm like, why? He's terrible.
Yeah. Well,
listen,
if Dixie Carter has any belief in you, you're
sunk.
In business.
Yeah. If she's going to give you a push, you better hope that the window's open.
Yeah, Panda Energy better be hiring.
So
but they got, you know what I like? They had the one episode where they turn around and they're like, AEW wants to do something with us. Like,
they're rubbing their hands together.
This is good. Like, we can be a feeder pool. I'm not kissing their ass. They're gonna have to come.
That's
to me.
That's
Al
the best.
Snow. Like, Al Snow's the first guy who hasn't had a meal in 6 weeks, and someone's like, you know what? I'll just leave it on the table for you. Bring it over to me. Why would I get up?
Yeah, right. Exactly. But guess what? If they were like, "Hey Al, do you want to come and like manage these people in maybe do like an OVW stable for AEW Dark?" He'd be the first. He'd rub his hands together and say like,
he would have been like,
can't wait to get involved." Yeah. Fold up the tent.
No matter what, that guy, no matter what was thrown at him to try to make money, it was like, no, we're not going to do that. And he's just, and the last episode, he's so pretentious. The guy, Matt Jones, who seems like the nicest guy, he's got had an epileptic fit.
On camera. Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
he's like, I'm glad we found, like, we get along. Well, you came in here, you were aggressive. I'm like, I would have been like, I came in here, you need my money, you're the asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Idiot.
You.
Matt Jones is John Taffer.
He kind of is.
Al
Yeah.
Snow is a guy with a shitty bar in the fucking hood of Kentucky.
Right.
Like,
he wants it to still be
He's
pirates.
doing you a favor.
Right.
He's Gordon
dude.
Ramsay slapping the bread on the side of your head, saying you're an idiot sandwich.
But he's doing it in a nice way where he's like, hey, I'm putting money into this. I don't want to I haven't drawn a dime from this company in the year that I've been part of it. So what's the best way for me to help you grow and do something with it? And Al was sort of like, well, you need to take a step back and like, let me run it. And it's like, sad Al.
Sorry, sir. I think you've been doing that for the past
Yeah.
20 years.
Yeah.
Right. You're losing my. And you know what I love? Like, the one guy gets arrested, like he's doing blow in his car.
Oh,
He gets
yeah.
arrested,
Yeah.
and he can't even be like, hey, guy, if you want to be serious in the business, like, you can't be doing drugs in your car, right?
Right. Yeah.
Don't worry, it'll be okay. It'll be okay. No, really, Al? Will it be okay? It
Yeah.
hasn't been okay yet.
First of all, he's taken that stance because this guy's a warm body in his company, and
Yeah.
he needs them to fill out a card with. But also, it's kind of like it's obviously a reality show, and so they have to sort of be sympathetic to that. But yeah, I mean,
Well, yeah, he doesn't want to come across as an asshole. But B, he's the only other guy that'll take $25 to be on television.
yeah, of course, yeah, right. So, if you're listening to us, we highly recommend this show.
Oh, I thought you were talking directly to Al Snow. By the way.
No. Well, no. Listen, if Al, if you're listening to us, thanks for the listen. By the way, can you get the 70? Can you get the 75 people who bought your last pay-per-view to listen?
Send them over.
Send them over. Matt Jones, if you need anybody to talk wrestling on your show, feel free to give us a call. But anyway, it's well worth at least watching a few of these episodes. If you can't get through 7, you can't get through 7. But it's well worth it. There's so much like indie wrestling like nuggets that you can pull out of this. And I think any wrestling fan would like get a chuckle out of it and understand where our laughs are coming from. When we're describing this, it's not a debacle, but it's definitely a reality show train wreck that we have all been blessed to see now. And
by the way, the one poor guy, the guy who's like the announcer, promoter, like whatever he's doing.
yeah.
He's like, he's getting threatened to get fired because his salary's too much. This guy's the only guy working.
Yeah,
which I
right.
still don't understand how he shows up at the golf course, then calls his kid, and he's like, yeah, I didn't get to see him. I'm like,
That's
you're at a
what
golf course. You bring the kid to the golf course.
Yeah, how easy would it be? Like that kid would probably love sitting around with wrestlers all day and
Right.
goofing around and like taking golf shots and
By the way, it was a county course. It wasn't like
Yeah.
they were playing Augusta. Like, you can't bring him in.
it's a county course. It looked like it was Cruz Farms. It was an open backyard. Just had less trees, but it's still kind of like, he's one of the guys you root for at the end of it, where you're like, man, he seems like a very nice guy, and he seems like he really wanted to help out and be part of the show and be just, again, whatever input he could have, he was working hard to do it, and he never got the praise of the, when he finally gets like a pat on the back, here and there, he loses his mind and he's like, oh, they appreciate me, and it's like,
Yeah.
Right.
Come on,
By
guy.
the way, your
Like-
last 3 checks have bounced.
Yeah.
And you're living with you're living in your mom's basement right now. So
best
I feel
of
like
luck.
I feel like they agreed to do the show thinking that this was going to be like the next Netflix series. Like
I think
the
so,
next
yeah.
Netflix documentary. And they were going to do multiple seasons of it. And then Al Snow saw what he looked like in the first season and was like, oh, we'll never do this again because I look like the biggest asshole that's ever lived.
But they got a paycheck.
And Mick Foley would probably called him
Yeah.
after ribbing him in all of his
Yeah,
books
of course,
and was just
yeah.
like, hey, Al, you You grumpy motherfucker. Never let anyone film you again.
Yeah. Either cheer up or bow out.
The minute they had the chance to do this, whatever, that guy Matt Jones was like, "Let's do it. Can we make some money?" Like they have to be
Yeah.
paying
Yeah.
us something. They
Oh,
want
100%.
Oh, and I'm sure they made money off of this. There's no doubt in my mind that like there's some sort of a
100%.
payout.
They did.
Yeah.
Like him and maybe no, he probably made money off of it. That's I don't know if Al Snow would have. I mean, of course, everyone's going to get paid somewhat, but I think like whoever was owning the company at the point is probably making the majority of the money that they're making off this. Everyone just thought it was going to be good exposure.
Yeah.
And it was not. It was exposure.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was good or not.
Right. It might be time
Well,
to
here's
pull.
the thing, right? Because I went up, I went and looked at some of the updates, and I'm sure you guys know
Yeah.
where some of these wrestlers are. But the breakout star is not under contract with anybody because,
No.
like Tommy said, like people saw her and went, "There's no way we can give this girl a
No,
contract."
she doesn't
You know
seem
what I mean?
reliable.
Her mother was under contract with Women of Wrestling, if that's still a thing. But
Yeah, well, maybe that's a follow-up episode. We have to find Women of Wrestling. I think it was on at like 3 a.m. on CBS a year ago, but there was shows that were taped like Tessa Blanchard was still like before she was a racist, and there was a whole bunch of girls who now are on AEW that were part of it. So
Well, that's where like Layla
Layla Gray?
Gray is like, she's kind of the only person that did anything out of this, and it
Yeah.
kind of had nothing to do with the documentary whatsoever.
Right, because she wasn't that featured. So yeah, she was probably being looked at by somebody else even before this started. I'm sure she did a few AEW darks. She was part of Jade Cargill's group, right?
Yeah, she was.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I think like
the baddies.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
They looked at her, and she has a look. She has some talent, and they were like, okay, we can do something with her. And they took that as, AEW wants to work.
Wants
with
our
us.
people.
And it's like, no, they want this one singular person.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you're never going to hear from them again.
It's a shame.
I love the episode when they like AEW wants them to come down and like put their wrestlers over, and they're like, they just all get squashed, and Al's like,
Yeah.
"What's it gonna make us look like? It's gonna make us look bad." I'm like, dude, any exposure is good for you right now.
Yeah. Yeah, Cash Flow's belly kind of makes him look bad. The fact that like half the roster that you have doesn't look like they go inside of a gym, let alone pick up a weight, I think that kind of makes you look bad too. Just to pivot real fast before we close out the episode, just another programming note that starting, I guess it's next week, the 25th of March, which is actually the day after this comes out, Dark Side of the Ring starts back up.
Oh.
So you got it's the 6th season. Even by my own admission, it's starting to get thin. But I just want to run down the people and the events that they're going to be covering, and just get like a little bit of feedback from you guys on
I hope you don't say Al Snow.
each of them. No, there's no Al Snow episodes yet.
No, that'll be season
Or
10.
as you like to call him, Sad Al Snow.
Sad Al Snow. Yeah.
That'll be OVW season 10, the documentary on Netflix.
So
Just
some.
Jim Cornette saying, "How did you do this to the promotion that I created?"
Well, goddamn, it was Danny Davis and I were running a great promotion. But some of the subjects, it's 10 episodes. They're doing Mick Foley's Hell in a Cell, which is the one versus The Undertaker from, what was that, King of the Ring 98?
Yep. I don't see how that could be a Dark Side of the Ring.
It's covered to death.
A, covered to death, and B, that is not the only thing that has made Mick Foley.
No.
Mick Foley's bumps against Mil Mascaris in 1992 has probably more to do with the state of physical condition that he's in
Yeah.
than the fucking Hell in a Cell does.
Yeah. but they're covering
And
that.
like you said, what else can they possibly say about
Nothing.
this? I mean,
No.
they've been interviewed. I mean,
And
it's not like there's 12 wrestlers in the ring. There's
No.
2. You interviewed the Undertaker. He's got nothing left to say.
Yeah.
The Undertaker is not going to be part of Dark Side of the Ring.
Yeah, exactly.
Foley is now under a WWE Legends contract. Probably won't be on the show.
Yeah.
Vince McMahon's not going to be on it. Terry Funk is dead.
Yeah.
Is going to be talking about this.
Yeah.
Who on that show? Who is going to be talking about it? That was even any part of that show.
Right.
It's going to be people talking about King of the Ring that had nothing to do with the show
right.
at all.
Yeah. No, they could talk to a Hebner. They could talk to a Jim Ross. I mean, it's going to be like people that were part of the company. Corny will get involved, and he'll scream and yell that they did too much.
Of course.
It was the biggest damn spectacle I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And,
but like you're going to give it no new insight. You're going to get
it's a waste.
Viable. That's a complete waste, and it's not. There's no dark side of it. I'm
Well,
sorry, there's
yeah.
no dark side.
Yeah.
That made Mick Foley into this. That made Mick Foley probably a millionaire.
Yeah.
That
Oh,
single spot made him a millionaire.
They.
So what is the dark side of it?
Yeah. Big Van Vader. Big Van Vader gets a dark side.
Again, what?
That fight he had in Kuwait when he choked the Kuwait guy who said wrestling was fake. I think Leon was a bit of a troublemaker, like not an asshole, like a drug guy or anything like that. But I think he was difficult to deal with backstage, and he got his eye knocked out by Stan Hansen in Japan in the ring. There's still like the often heard story of the shower fight where Paul Orndorff beat him up in the shower in WCW. But Leon's dead, so you're gonna get Leon's
dead. You're
family.
You're gonna have his kids talking about. It'll be similar to like the Ole Anderson, like the black. What was that Black Saturday?
The Black Saturday. I think it'll probably
where
be
they
more
like make him a sympathetic figure that wasn't really sympathetic. But again, like the show started based around like the Owen Hart death, the Von Erichs, like actual fucked up shit. Like now we're really reaching.
Well, all right. Let me. I think it starts to ramp up from here. Tony Atlas will get his own episode.
Just like an hour of women standing on his face.
There's going to be a lot of that. But he was homeless for a while. He had his own drug addictions, and he had his own he was bankrupt, and then he came back.
And is that in the midst of wrestling or prior?
Oh no, in the midst. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because he was a big star in Georgia in the early '80s, and he basically he fried himself out. Trying to live the lifestyle, not like Junkyard Dog, but I think kind of a similar star of all these territories, and really hit the skids.
The territory stuff, kind of you can go with because a lot of those guys got fucked over.
Yeah,
especially
of course.
I was just gonna say,
but when you're talking about Vader and Mick Foley, like two guys who are revered as like the best, some of the best at what they did. And they had like some minor health issues that probably stemmed from wrestling, but didn't lead to anything major.
Ultimately, they're revered.
Like Mick Foley is still making money
from
WWE. Is like on national television on their like Storage Wars show or whatever the fuck they do. I don't think you can call anything he does a dark side.
No, he's the happiest man. Fell on his neck all that time. Ludwig Borga is also getting his own episode.
Now that is good. That guy's a legitimate Nazi.
Yeah, he's a legitimate Nazi. Tons of drug stuff, tons of arrests. And kind of a shoot fight guy. Got into MMA after a wrestling career. So I'm sure there's some wild stories. He's also committed suicide.
He's dead. I didn't know.
Or alleged. Yeah, it's alleged suicide. I don't know if it was ever it was ruled a suicide, but he had so many enemies that I'm sure there's going to be the old Dino Bravo. Was this really?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That leads me down to Dino Bravo. Like, that was a fucking crazy episode. That's a good one. I like that.
Okay. All right. Here's another one. Billy Jack Haynes.
That's another one I like.
That's a good one.
Because I feel like that's a lesser known story.
So I think he's in prison right now for killing a girlfriend or a wife.
Yeah.
Allegedly killed somebody. And again, he's a guy that's whacked out of his mind on drugs. But he alleged that he was like a hitman for like the Oregon government.
Yeah.
In the late 80s. If he's involved with telling parts of the story, buckle up, because he's a conspiracy theory guy.
Oh, it's going to be like a Marty Jannetty episode.
Yeah,
Marty Jannetty's out of his mind.
Oh, well, if you think Marty Jannetty's out of his mind, Billy Jack Haynes is he's his tag team partner.
I'll definitely watch that one.
in the sillies
for sure.
Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert will get his own Dark Side of the Ring, and see, this is every season they throw somebody from the territories that I just want to hear more about, and I know a lot about Eddie Gilbert and Eddie Gilbert's short career. He died when he was 32 years old.
Yeah. I think this is going to be more of like a Bam Bam episode, or like like one of those episodes where it's like, or John Tenta or something, where it's like a guy that was awesome, great at what they did, and they just died too early.
Yeah, of course.
And it's of their own doing. They were into some sort of drugs or whatever, but like it's not really like, aside from the fact that they were doing drugs.
Well, Eddie Gilbert was he was the booker in a whole bunch of places, and he quit every company that he worked for, and then immediately got a job somewhere else. He was married to Missy Hyatt. He was married to Medusa. And I think both of them can participate. Medusa probably has WWF stuff, but she can still participate. So I think you're going to get some like
filmed,
some salacious stories in there too. Yeah, that's a fascinating one. Plus, Cornette's probably going to cry on that one.
Of course.
It would be.
You'll get like Jeff Jarrett on there probably.
Yeah, it would be great if they could get like Paul E. Like if Paul E. could talk about anybody, he was Eddie Gilbert's right hand man for 5 years.
Yep.
And he went everywhere he went. So that should be a fun one.
Won't
I'm looking forward to that one.
But that's going to be a good one.
Superstar Billy Graham. He gets one. And again, like this probably is like the legend and the guy that like was a pioneer of the business who threw it all away for drugs, exposed the WWF, and this is going to have a lot of the WWF steroid stuff tied to it. Yeah. So they're going to get dragged over the coals for the way that they handled the steroids, especially if any of his family members are part of it. So that's going to be like your little history stuff. Plus, you're going to get a ton of footage, hopefully a ton of footage of when he shaved his head and he just had the mustache and he was karate Billy Graham, which incredibly ridiculous for Billy Graham. Karate Billy Graham. Daphne is on there, and this is the tearjerker. That's a sad story. Suicide and bipolar disease and a lot of stuff. The original Sheik.
Again, that's like one where I think it's just more of a history lesson.
Yeah.
Than a dark side, unless there's stuff that we don't know.
Yeah. Well, and he was also like a big time kayfabe guy. So like, Sabu and the family members that are still survived, and they're going to talk about that.
They did an FMW episode. They did like an XPW episode.
Yeah.
Where the majority of it is just like, it was deathmatch wrestling. That's
right.
Like, yeah.
Like you could almost guess like what's going to happen, right? He immigrated from somewhere. He had a debt to pay off for the flight that he got here.
Of course,
yeah. It's like these guys, to an extent, that make the show view like hardcore wrestling as like the some sort of like blemish on the business or something.
Right. And
because any
yeah.
sort of involvement with hardcore wrestling, they seem to like tie into it being like, but like that's how a lot of people make
Yeah.
their
Right. He
and
he ran a
unless
successful
there's
promotion.
unless there's something that we don't know that they found out through interviews and stuff, I don't see that one being anything more than a history lesson into the Detroit scene and what he did in Japan.
And I think the
and passing his legacy onto
Sabu.
So, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I that one I mean I want to watch it because I don't know as much about the Sheik as I do as I would like to know, but I don't see it being like because some of these feel like gotcha things, like the Snuka one and stuff like that. That this kind of feels all right. There's a deathmatch guy that like maybe some people don't know about.
Right. And then the last one is Muhammad Hassan. And he's another one that just sort of like he had
wrong place, wrong time.
Wrong place, wrong time. Disappeared from pro wrestling right after that ill-advised angle with the right after the bombing in London, and so that's where you're going to get the pro wrestling does politics bad backlash, and and you're going to have a lot of like again this probably lends to like people that work for WWE at the time, probably leaning in like on talking
Jimmy
about
Corderas
like, this was like this was really this was taboo and we shouldn't have done that with him, but you were making a ton of money and the guy was poised to be a champion at some point because it was a hot angle and it just
but also isn't like the story with that was it was filmed it was on SmackDown, so it was taped on a Tuesday and like this happened on a Wednesday and then they still
aired it.
They still
by
aired
Friday.
It on Thursday or Friday, and then like that was the issue.
Yep.
And he just happened to be, you're involved in it, so now you're like, oh, we can't use this guy.
And they squashed them at the next pay-per-view, which was like 2 weeks later or something like that. And it was like, all right, well, you're done with wrestling. And so I'm sure there's going to be a lot of like, well, I tried to do this, I tried to do that, I could never get back into it. And so again, it's a it's always an interesting show. And
it'll be hit and miss.
It's no OVW, but
I think like the last few seasons have been kind of similar to
yeah.
Like last season there were a few good ones and there are a few bad ones because it's just
if they do want to also they can talk
reaching.
about the attempted murder of the wrestling business.
Well, also like, don't you want to like a real sit down interview with Dark Storm? And his barber about how they get the lines in his beard to look as terrible as possible, or maybe Al can like we have a sit down interview where like Mr. Pectacular talks about Al Snow and his contribution to the business. Like, God bless you, OVW. But no, this is a fun look at the at the TV show The Wrestlers on Netflix, available.
Must watch.
Go check it out. Any fan of wrestling will be able to, and any fan of ours that realize how much ridiculousness we mine from this show will say, "All right, I'm checking this out. These guys had a good recommendation for it." So. So excellent stuff, Steve. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for being the inspiration for this episode. You really nailed it. You took it. You hit it out of the park.
Well, that's about the best I could have done. That was the gift that keeps on giving. They did the work, not us.
and as a reward, you will get to in the next episode. You'll get to drive our brains crazy with your annual visit to riddle us with pro wrestling trivia. How's that sound?
Loving it. Let's do it.
All right. So for Steve, our special guest, for Tom, this is Mike. We will see you guys at the matches, and maybe those matches will be in Kentucky.
Maybe you could use.
She gets to own